my greatest challenge with video is that I need to guess. I need to guess you. I need to guess who you are and what you are doing. And I need to guess that at every moment throughout the video. There is not a single moment where I can receive direct feedback from you, where I can see what you're doing. So I need to guess what you're doing, what you're going through, what you need. And there's many types of clients. So this makes matters even more complicated. So there's this person who would speak a lot, and we would hardly get to the movements themselves at first, because there's so many things to talk about, like a big layer of language separating us from the movement. And then there's, of course, the opposite client who does not speak at all. And we focus on the movements first, and then maybe after 5 sessions, maybe after 30 sessions, suddenly the questions come. 30 sessions is a bit much, but maybe after 20 sessions, questions start arise. Why is this working? I don't understand. I've been to so many doctors. I've seen so many world-class specialists. Nobody could help you. And then I'm doing 1 hour with you, Alfons, and my pain is disappeared. I don't understand what's going on. And this question was in this person's heart for like 20 hours. And after 20 hours, she suddenly speaks up and says, why does this work? How is this even possible? And through these questions comes a deeper level of understanding and, of course, even better benefits, more benefits. The movements become suddenly go to a new level. What was really good before becomes excellent, and the pieces fall together because the understanding joins the movement. We become a whole as a person. So I need to take the liberty sometimes now for my opening of this video to speak something about my work, so I can get into my work, to connect with my past experiences. So maybe for you it's a lot asked a lot to listen to a lot, but sometimes I also need to speak to get closer to you. At least, I don't know if it should work like that, even through time and space, through this remote medium, that I can come closer to you and you can come closer to me. And then we can start the work. And today's lesson, we start lying on the belly, and it will be not easy for everyone, and for some it will be easy. And we need to explore this movement. These movements I'm suggesting, and these movements build upon many previous lessons, like the last 10 lessons. So if you have done the last 10 lessons here on YouTube, the previous ones, if you look in the history on my channel, that would be beneficial. But every journey starts with a first step. So maybe you dive into today's lesson if this is your first, and then explore the backlog. Or I hope if you are a long-time viewer, then maybe some pieces fall together for you, come together, and a new kind of understanding can arise. Or maybe it's just deepen, or maybe it's just are we together already? So we can start the lesson, and we start on the front side. So please come to lie on your front side. Turn your head to the right, so that your left ear is on the floor, and support yourself with your right hand. So have your right hand stand in a position that it's possible or easy for you to have the head turned to the right. Have your legs long,
And also stand your left hand so that your elbows are pointing behind you towards the ceiling. We could say this is like a push-up position, but I don't use the word push-up position because it's not going to be a push-up. It's going to be a different movement. So please just stand your right hand and also stand your left hand. And this is our starting position. The head turned more or less to the right. And then the first movement is to lift the head and turn it to the left. And you can have a short rest on your right ear and then lift the head again and turn it back to the right. And do it slowly enough so that you can observe the movement in detail and you can start to have questions. And these questions are important. Where do you lean against? Do you breathe in or do you breathe out? How do you move your shoulders? Where do you lean against more, your left hand or your right hand, or both at the same time? Do you lean against your belly or your pubic bone or even your upper legs? And this will make a big difference for your lower back in case you have lower back troubles. How is the connection of lifting the head to your legs? So these are things we can ask, and especially can ask if we already have a lot of experience with these kind of explorations, or you just turn your head to the left and to the right and to the left and to the right, and you wonder, what is this good for? So let me also turn my head a couple of times to get into the lesson with you. And then give your wrists a short rest. Just rest your hands for a few moments. And then bring your hands, when you're ready, bring your hands to stand again. And come back to the same movement. Return to the same movement. Do the same, similar. We need to say similar, not the same, because no movement is the same, but similar. To lift the head and turn it to the left and back to the right. And there's a curve. You're not just rotating your head, but you're displacing your head. So make this displacement a bit bigger. So when you turn the head to the left, bring your nose or your head closer to your left hand. And when you return the head to the right, bring your nose closer to your right hand. It's like but don't exaggerate. Just bring your head a little bit closer to your right hand, and then on the other side to the left hand. So you're moving your head a little bit more to the right and to the left. And while you do this, observe your shoulders, your shoulder work. So the shoulders, they actually do not lift at the same time. And so when your head is turned to the right in the starting position and you're turning the head to the left, maybe it's the left shoulder that lifts first, that leads the movement. And why is that? And maybe it's the right, but maybe it's the left. And there's a reason for the shoulder to lead the movement, especially if we look at the turning of the head as a movement. because maybe that's not just the work of the neck to turn the head, but also it's a movement of the shoulder girdle. So observe when your shoulder, which shoulder comes up when. How do you coordinate this lifting and turning of the head, or maybe direct even with your shoulders? And how much your elbows come closer to the floor or move away from the floor. This is almost like a preparation for a crawling movement, isn't it? It could be. This lesson could lead into a crawling lesson, a lesson to explore again crawling, which maybe you have not done for quite a while, and is a quite essential movement pattern. But it's not a lesson for crawling, actually. It's not a crawling lesson. It could lead there, but it's not. At the moment, it's just turning, just continue turning your head to the left and to the right, and do not stop your breath while you're doing that. But just continue to breathe normally. All right, then let's take a break on the back. So please roll over and come to lie on your back. And this is just to feel how you feel when you lie down on the back now. So we often use this position as like a home position, as a home rest. We can rest in any position, actually. We should be able to, or not any, but most, like a baby. A baby can rest on the back, on the side, on the front. In sitting, a baby can sleep in sitting. And there's many people who can sleep in sitting and rest in sitting. But sometimes we need a home position for resting. Or when we sleep, there's a sleep start position. And in these lessons, sometimes we use the lying on the back just to feel how it is to lie on the back. How far away your lower back is from the floor, how much you press down with one side of the pelvis, how much you press against the floor with your shoulders or with the back of your head. Or if you have the feeling of floating on your back. We are safe from falling on the back, but maybe you can even feel like it's like a lesson of falling onto the floor, resting onto the floor. Let's come back onto the front side, please. Let's continue the lesson on the front. And this time only stand your right hand, have your head turned to the right, and bend your knees so that your feet are pointing towards the ceiling. And have your feet together and your knees together, more or less together, close together. And tilt your feet to the left, to your left side, or we could say tilt your lower legs to the left so that the feet come closer to the floor on your left side, and observe how you did that if your feet separated. So don't let them separate. Keep your feet together somehow and keep your knees close to each other. You don't have to glue them together, but just keep your knees close to each other. So when you tilt your legs to the left. Your right knee lifts and you roll over your left knee, your left leg, so your feet can come closer to your left side. Do not extend your legs, please, but keep them bent in a more or less a 90-degree angle, which might be difficult. So the knees are bent and the hip joints are extended. And of course, return to the starting position and explore this movement. Do this movement a couple of times. It's like almost like a lifting of your right. You can think of lifting your right knee off the floor. You could try that a couple of times to lift your right knee, and then do the movement again with your left leg together to tilt both lower legs to the left, and then maybe take a rest, just to give your right wrist a rest. If this work is really hard for your wrist, you could use your fist to push against the floor with your fist, on the iron fist, like a fitness exercise. And then stand your right hand again and bend your knees. So this is the same starting position, the knees bend together. And again, let your lower leg, both lower legs, both feet sink to your left, to the left side, and help with your right hand to push against the floor. And see, this is how we can optimize this movement. Now you have a objective. So the objective is to tilt the legs, to roll the pelvis, in fact, and you should. I invite you to, or you could invite yourself to help with your right hand, to push the floor with your right hand, and help in this regard to turn your pelvis so that the feet can come closer to the floor on your left side. So try that with your right shoulder close to the floor. Keep your right shoulder close to the floor. So it's a twist that needs to be accommodated, a twist through your whole upper body. When you keep your right hand close to the floor, of course, and your right shoulder close to the floor. And let's not make that a lesson that's only about one side. Let's take today let's take the time to practice this lesson on both sides. So change over to the other side. So stay on your belly, but lengthen your right arm alongside your body and stand your left hand. And of course, have your knees bent. I will turn my head. Have your knees bent and allow your legs to fall to the right, to your right side. Both feet come closer to the floor on your right side, where your right hand is on the floor, and keep your knees more or less together. They may slide, so maybe the left knee lifts first, so you can tilt your legs to your right and roll your pelvis, and help with your left hand to push against the floor to make this rolling of the pelvis possible, easy, a feeling of elegance. So here's a movement that's maybe not so easy, or a movement that can have mistakes, where it's actually easy to make mistakes. And what kind of mistakes are there? So a mistake is when you feel effort, when it's hard. So when something is difficult, you need to take a step back, to take a rest. When it's difficult, when you feel this movement is difficult, you take a rest and then you come back into the starting position and you start the movement again and see what you have to move first. Maybe the right foot to the right, so rolling of your right or the left, or push your hand. Maybe your head is not in the ideal position. Maybe your right arm could be in a better position to make this movement smoother, easier. Maybe the legs should be able to slide a bit more. What can you do? And in the end, I can promise you, this should be a very easy movement. It's about your self-organization, about what you do first and what you do last, and how you use yourself to make this movement easy, and the left shoulder can move separately. Actually, in truth, this could be a lesson about your neck. And it is actually, I think, I want it to be a lesson about turning the head. And we will conclude this lesson like this. So take a short rest. So this was our second big movement on the right side and on the left side. Just take a short break. Maybe should we take a short break on the back? Just to feel how it is to lie on the back. This movement sequence will get more complicated very soon. But I don't want to stress out over it. This is a movement sequence where many people fail, and I want to teach it in a way nobody fails. I want you to be able to finish this movement sequence. So we need to take it step by step, but steps take we must. Please come back onto your front side. And this time, stand both hands again. And bend both knees again. And have the knees on the floor, more or less together, and the feet towards the ceiling. And don't let your behind stick out, but have your pelvis on the floor. The pelvis is in contact with the floor. So this time both hands are standing, and again please bring your feet closer to the left. Tilt your legs over to the left side of the floor with both hands standing. And so what's the new thing? The new thing in this movement, when you tilt your legs to the left, lift your head. Lift your head off the floor. And what is the right moment to lift the head? So again, you can press with your right hand to help the pelvis to roll. You can slide your feet maybe a little bit. And the shoulders, how do they move now? Which shoulder lifts now first? Which shoulder comes up? Which shoulder does not come up? And at some point, lift your head. So the movement of the head, the lifting of the head is connected to the movement of your pelvis, the rolling of your pelvis, and the tilting of your legs to the left. But when and how much? When and how much? What we know what it is, but when does the head need to come off? And how far? Two important things to notice. Two important things. Don't shorten your neck. When you do this movement, develop an awareness for when you shorten your neck. Develop an awareness. Become aware. Put a watchdog. Become aware of the moment that you shorten your neck. Do not shorten your neck. Keep your neck long. Allow yourself to be long throughout your spine. The spine belongs to you, but to be
long, to keep the spine long, opposite of short. Don't shorten your neck. That's one important thing. And the second important thing is do not stop your breath. Keep breathing. Keep the flow of your breath while you do this movement. And I will put on some music, and you just explore this movement for like 3 minutes.
And then take a short rest, give your wrists a rest, give your arms a rest. And turn your head over to the other side and explore the same movement to the right. So tilt your legs to the right, and at the right moment, lift your head. And you have already experienced now on one side, so on the other side, just compare. How is one side different than the other? Or maybe what can you learn one side from the other? What can you transpose to the other side? Or where are you better on the other side?
Okay, and then we need a rest on the back, especially for the neck also. This is a lesson where you could feel strain in your neck, so be careful with your neck. Don't turn the head too much. Don't overdo it. Did you overdo it? I hope not. See if your neck is still okay. Just a short break on the back. So these were the first couple of movements, and now we do the last couple of movements. So please return onto your front side.
With both hands standing, bend your knees again, have your feet towards the ceiling, and tilt your legs, the lower legs, to the left, and lift your head, and at the right moment, push up in the right sequence, without shortening your neck, without holding your breath. Float up. Float up is better than push up. Float up, and you will end up in side sitting. So separate in the end, separate your legs.
Yes, and you will come to sit. And where will you be facing? And go down again and come up again. And the first time this might be a surprise. So what else is missing in this recipe? How can you come up to sit? Maybe you need to draw up your left knee. How about this?
So you start on your belly with the head turned to the right, and you tilt your legs to the left, and then you could pull up your left knee towards your right hand. The left knee towards the right hand. And the same way back again.
That's a very fun way. Can you find this movement? Does this work for you? So this is like a moment where I would love to see you, but I cannot see you. I would like to know. I would like to know how this is working for you. Try to find this movement to come from lying on your belly with all the preparation we did. So remember all the steps we did with your shoulder, and come up to side sitting. And from side sitting the same way back down until you're on your belly again. And this movement can be effortless. This movement can be like walking, like a change from one leg to the other leg. And the coming up can be as easy as the going down. So from physics we know to lift an object, there needs to be, that's work, and the energy needs to go into this. But from the playground we know when there's where there are two children, one child is going up and one child is going down, it's not so difficult. And this movement is very similar to this counterbalance, and it can be very easy. And once you found this ease on one side, also try to the other side, to come up to side sitting on the other side. And when you play this movement with this explorer spirit, it will become easier and easier, and you will find the edges, you will find your mistakes, and where you can smoothen it out. And all the preparatory steps we did that led up to the final movement, that is to come from lying on the belly to side sitting with this kind of motion. These steps are important. So when you do this lesson again, include all the previous steps, and maybe even include some of my previous videos, because they lead up to this movement. And we talk to the body through the body. We solve movement-related problems through movement. Just like we solve thinking-related problems through thinking. And we don't solve thinking problems with willpower by putting more effort, by straining more. This doesn't lead to anything. When we need to think hard, we need to think hard. And that's a phrase, to think hard, which is to be in a creative thinking process that involves a multitude of possibilities and solutions, and we find the paths that work and that lead us towards a solution in thinking. And same as in movement, we don't move harder, but we explore, we use movement to be creative and find solutions in a very structured way. So this is not like wild, doing a couple of loose variations, but it's very structured things that build upon each other, that relate to each other, and that bring us to this certain kind of movement. So I will join you a little bit for this final movement, exploration, from coming from side-sitting to lying on the belly. And actually, just now I found out that my final position, the orientation in my final sitting position, is determined by how far I pull up my left knee on the floor. So this is a very interesting observation I just had right now, which I wasn't aware of before. So this just happened in this lesson. And then, of course, to the other side. And if this works smoothly, it's fun, isn't it? It just feels good. It's like a major discovery, this kind of counterbelly, because it's so easy and it's so smooth, isn't it? And of course, you can combine both sides. So when you come down, you don't. So there you have the first movement again. When you transition from one side to the other, where you have these kind of shoulder movements and the turning of the head on the floor, you transition from one side to the other side, and there's actually no need anymore to lie down the head onto the floor, but just to go smoothly from one side to the other. And there you have a movement you might have in dance. In dance, in all sorts of modern dances, music, video dancing, choreographies. But that's how you would break it up into pieces and look at the pieces in detail. And in the end, it's so much smoother. It's a smoothness, a level of smoothness you will never be able I can say this boldly. That's a smoothness you will never be able to achieve through willpower and through training alone. You need to break it up into its components. Look at the components. You differentiate. You slice it. You look at the components in detail. You improve every part of it, like you would build a motorcycle. You clean every part of the motorcycle and you put it together, and it will be lighter because there's always a couple of screws we don't need anymore, and that's how you improve a final movement. If you look at the parts, not through willpower alone or at all, and not through repetition alone or at all, but we talk to ourselves through movement. We solve movement-related problems through movement. Okay, so I hope that was fun. One last thing I want to mention. For this last part, please come either to sit on a chair or come up to stand. Actually, it's a good idea to come up to stand just to feel how you're standing now, how you're supported by your feet up from the ground. Yes, so just stand, wait for your breath to become a smooth flow again. That's not noticeable. Breathing is something, ideally, that, like movement is something, ideally, that we don't notice at all. We don't notice much. We can focus on our intention, on the things we need to do in this world, our contributions to society, without being burdened by having to think about it. It should be so smooth, our movements. But of course, it's also a merit to look at movements. And how does turning of the head work for you now? So this is the last part I want to do together with you, to turn the head to the left and to turn the head to the right. So this should work fairly smoothly right now, and observe what's happening when you do this, and not in the sense of, oh God, what's happening, but what is moving. When you turn the head to the left, your right shoulder comes forward, your left shoulder goes backwards, your right hip comes forwards, the left hip goes backwards, your right hand moves around you in front, and your left hand moves around you in the back. Maybe that's something that's happening. And on the right side, of course, it's the same, but mirrored to the right. Your left hand moves around you, in front of you, and the right hand around you in the back of you. Now, if you come to remember the first movement we did on the back with the hands against the floor, and then the head was to the right as a starting position, and then you lifted your head and you turned your head to the left. And from the left you lifted your head and you turned the head to the right. So do this again in standing, and you can have your hands like in a push-up, the right hand standing in the air and the left hand standing in the air. And you push. Where do you push? How do your shoulders move? How is this movement? If you think about, if you're in your feeling, you think about this movement on the floor, and you do it now in standing. Can you feel your shoulders move? Isn't that a very interesting experience, how the shoulders move? So when your head is turned to the right, let's do this. Your head is turned, keep your head turned to the right, and then pull your left shoulder backwards and allow your head to follow your left shoulder. So your left shoulder moves backwards, your head turns to the left, the right shoulder comes forwards, and then pull your right shoulder backwards and let your head follow to the right and come left shoulder forwards. And then again, let your left shoulder move backwards and let the head follow to turn to the left. So instead of moving your nose to the left or the right, or looking with your eyes to the left and to the right, initiate this movement with your shoulders. So you pull one shoulder back and you let your head follow. you pull the other shoulder back and you let your head, so this is turn. So what turns, your shoulder or your neck? Isn't it grand, magnificent, how everything can work together? Isn't this a splendid feeling, and brings us back to who we are, who we have grown to be over, if we believe in evolution, over millions of years, and we are the crowning in every moment of our history. So if we use ourselves in the way it's meant to be, isn't that a magnificent feeling? So I hope you found this as interesting as I always find it interesting. And I hope you continue to have benefits and make discoveries in these kind of explorations. It was a pleasure. Thank you for watching. If you would like to support me, there's ways to support me. So, but that's not the point of this lesson. The point of the lesson is you and your feeling. You're feeling well and smooth and magnificent. All right? So thank you for watching and see you in the next video.